I am frozen on yours again.
That's all right.
Just get rid of it. Get rid of it.
Oh yeah, here. Let me hide you if you're gonna be frozen. All right. Wow. So that's fun.
Yeah, this has been great.
Yeah, don't buy a new webcam is the lesson for today's episode.
Yep. So, hello everyone. Welcome to Tapcaf Transmissions, the only Star Wars podcast that needs to call Leo Laporte when we're done with this.
That'd be nice. Leo Laporte could probably help us out.
Yeah.
Maybe we could even call him live during an episode recording.
Yeah. Well, I'm Corey. Joining me, as always, is my co-host with a functioning webcam for the most part, EckhartsLadder. How are you doing today, Justin?
I'm doing well, and yeah, my webcam is fully functional. If I go a bit to this side, you can see the Masaman Curry Vite Ramen behind me. And if I were to point you at the ground and take it off the little hoist, you'd be able to see my dog sleeping on the floor. So,
there you go. That's all you need.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat has said, this podcast is just like Kenobi. Great content marred by less great technical execution.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, well, today we are going to be talking about Kenobi, the finale, also a bit of episode 5, because we usually do these episodes in pairs, but of course the finale is what's freshest in everyone's minds, the most to talk about probably. I normally have a webcam. I bought a new one, spent an hour and a half, 2 hours today getting everything set up and changed over. It was working fine. Sat down to do the podcast, and then my webcam just wasn't working. So I'm just going to be a box here.
Taking that long to set up a webcam already is like a bit of a warning sign.
Well,
a webcam is like the ultimate plug and play technology.
The webcam worked out of the box. It's just I was setting up the actual camera settings, and I was changing my lighting setup and having to resync all my light bulbs to my phone, which is a thing. But yeah, it didn't work. Didn't work.
Yeah. Part of it too is like all the webcam stuff has like proprietary software now, and I think it just usually ends up making things worse, especially when you go to work with like OBS or something.
Yeah.
So you reminded me that I had lighting, so I was messing with that too. But yeah, so that sucks. What else has been new, Corey? Because we took last week off. You were away. You want to tell us about your trip?
Yeah. So I last week was visiting family, so I left on the Wednesday, came back on the Monday. So that was nice. Got to see my nephews, who I rarely get to see. They are pretty young, so every time I see them, it's like 6 to 18 months apart. And
they do be
at that
older.
age, like, yeah, it's such a huge difference every time. So spent some time with them. Did a lot of babysitting, so my sister and brother-in-law could exist as humans on their own for a while as well. But yeah, so
did you get COVID on the trip, or did you make it made it home scot-free?
No, I just had some allergies because of a dog, and thought maybe
I just
that's
figured,
COVID.
Because you haven't had.
I was convinced. I think I might have had it in December last time I went.
Oh, okay. And because I'm also streaming this too, I just want to, for those of you who are new, this is our podcast, Tapcaf Transmissions. We usually talk about Star Wars books, kind of like a book club, especially for the expanded universe, but we do occasionally talk TV shows or news or whatever else. So if you want to listen to the audio version, there's links down in the description. We usually record once every week or so. Before we continue, we should talk about next week. I'm going to be away until Thursday, so I was thinking maybe next week we should do another Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah, we can either do that, or do you think Edge of Victory is going to be too long? Because we were going to do
the other. Be too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably going to be too much for me because I'm like going somewhere, and I'll be taking the kids to water parks and stuff, so it's not going to be possible. But we could. So the week after that, we could either do. I've got Shadow of the Sith right here. My physical copy finally came in super late. So we could either do this, or we could do go back to Edge of Victory. What do you think?
We have been putting off Edge of Victory for quite some time, but it'd be nice to do Shadow of the Sith when it's more timely.
Yeah, so that
But
Shadow of the Sith comes out, I think it's June 28th. So it comes out next week. So I mean, we could do Shadow of the Sith and then do Edge of Victory and then kind of like we could do Edge of Victory the very next week instead of taking a week off, maybe.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Let's do that. Let's say Tales of the Jedi, the second chronological arc, which I forget, is that one
Is
just
the
the
is
Tales of the Jedi like
Yeah.
eponymous?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll
Yep.
do that. Then we'll do the new Sith one. Then we'll do Edge of Victory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that'll be fun.
Or yeah, Agents of
Uh,
Chaos, not Edge of Victory.
Agent of Chaos. Yeah. Then the next Dijon Bong one.
Yeah.
It's been a while though. You're right. It has been, I guess, what, like three weeks, I guess, since we talked about the last Vong book, maybe.
Yeah, 3, maybe 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's been a minute. I watched. So yeah, I speaking of kids, I watched this episode. I've been watching the show with my son. He's only 3.5, but he really really likes it for some reason.
Yeah.
Probably because Darth Vader is his favorite character.
He thinks
Um,
Star Wars is Darth Vader.
yeah, well, he knows like surprising amount of characters. Really likes General Grievous, even though never has had the patience to get that far into Revenge of the Sith. But he likes General Grievous. He loves Darth Vader. He likes the stormtroopers. They're probably his favorite, and he really likes the droids. He knows most of the droids except for a couple of them. But he's loved Kenobi. Like I don't, like he sits through the entire episode. When the last episode came out, I was watching it with him, kind of on one leg, and then my daughter, who's like she's not even 2 yet. She was just anything will get her attention for a while. And I've got a video, and maybe I'll edit it into the audio version of this. But when the fight started, he started screaming, "He hit him in the face with your lightsaber, Obi-Wan!" And he's just like screaming it over and over and over again. And Kelsey was in the kitchen making breakfast or something, and she's like, "What's he going on about?" And he was just like, "Hit him in the face!" It was so funny, and he was like running around, like swinging something, like a little pirate sword or something. So he was really enjoying it, and that was a lot of fun for me. I had already seen it, I think, at that point once, or maybe that was the first time. But yeah, he was really loving it. So that was fun.
Yeah, gotta get them while they're young.
Well, it's like with the Star Wars thing, I never really tried because that was like what my family was like. Oh, I bet you got him watching Star Wars. It's like, no, he watches whatever he wants. He picked up Star Wars, I think, mostly like just from seeing me watch something on my phone or coming in the like he will hang out with me while I'm editing a video sometimes. And I think that's kind of how he picked it up. But
Yeah,
yeah,
he's more into the Dragon Ball Z, right?
he watched a lot of Dragon Ball, like the original Dragon Ball. He got to the what arc is he on now? I think he's on like I think he's about to start the world tournament when Goku grows up. So
Hmm.
he's watched a lot of Dragon Ball. Anytime like we have a sleepover downstairs, we crush a bunch of Dragon Ball.
Bunch of beers, bunch of Dragon Ball. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the episode though. Thoughts on episode 5? Like briefly, I guess. I mean, they kind of run together. The whole show really does. It definitely felt more like a mini series than something like The Mandalorian, where everything is like clearly episodic. So, thoughts on
Yeah.
episode 5?
I think episode 5 and 6 together are like the two best in the
Mm-hmm.
series. Like, I'm not sure if I'd probably put 6 above 5, but
Yeah, I would too.
uh, I didn't think they had to use Hayden like in his Hayden form for it to have been worth bringing him back, but I'm glad they did.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed the fight there, and I liked how they tied everything together with that.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
really cool.
yeah, so
The
it
big
was
thing
nice to
there
see
is
the
the
fight.
de-aging. Yeah, like what
Yeah,
did you I personally am happy that because there's like there were definitely talks, I'm sure, when they were filming this and putting it together. What do we do with Hayden? Especially Ewan looks, pretty similar in age with makeup, but Hayden definitely looks older, which I mean is it's been it's been in what 16 years. I'm kind of glad they decided to do the less is more approach.
Yeah.
Like these are actors, and I like it. I do like the groundbreaking and kind of limit pushing technology sometimes, but at other times, like it's just okay. Like same with like the Ewan McGregor not looking quite like Alec Guinness. He's close enough that like you know these are actors, and ultimately this is a piece of art. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with them doing that sometimes.
Yeah, like I'm not sure if there was even much, if anything, that was done digitally for that.
I don't think there was.
Yeah, because
Um,
like they were
like hey,
clearly Hayden at the very least was clearly much older than like
mhm.
19-year-old Anakin, but
Yes,
like I don't think it has to be like you know what's going on with that in the same way that you know like obviously Alec Guinness and Ewan McGregor aren't the same person or aren't going to look the same.
yeah.
Like
I mean, Hayden Christensen is 41 years old. He was
yeah,
probably 40 when they were filming this, and he's playing, like you said, is he 19? Is that how old he is? And
he's got to be between what 19 and 22
what was he?
as
Yeah.
early days of the Clone Wars. He's still short hair, Padawan situation. Like he's probably 20 at the oldest.
So
Like
yeah,
there's no way.
yeah. So I like that. I thought it was cool, and like you said, it was a cool way to tie the episode together. Um, I really liked a lot of the things that episode 5 did, like thematically. I really liked the Riva character.
Yeah.
Um, but I think this was 5 was the episode which most suffered from like I think production design issues, where the entire thing is like in a dark cave, and
Yeah.
it's not very compelling to look at, and I don't think the action was particularly fun. Um, and yeah, like that kind of brings the episode down a bit for me, and it was pretty much a problem the entire series had. Especially, I'm watching Miss Marvel as well,
Yeah.
which is also I haven't watched episode 3 yet, but I've been watching it on Disney Plus, and that's a show where you can't make one-to-one comparisons because Star Wars has to make sets for everything, and they can't just film in New York City. But it's like that show seems so carefully crafted, and I know it's been said a million times, but I wonder what happened that this kind of ended up this way.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just like a difference between what they thought they wanted to do with the tone of the show, than that not translating quite as well in the end product visually. Because like Miss Marvel, it's a lot like it is a lot brighter of a show. So if they're
Yep.
going to be going into that, then like the end product is obviously going to be brighter. But if they started
Yep.
working on Kenobi, thinking like, oh, we want this darker tone, darker themes, then you start putting it together. It's like, oh, I can't see anything. Like if there
Yeah.
was one thing I could change about the show, then it would definitely be like if I only got to pick one thing to change, I would like to be able to see things. That would be nice.
That would be something for me, though. It's the music. I respect that they wanted to do something different with the music and not rely on the old themes. But like, if you watch A New Hope in particular, that's a movie that it looks kind of amateurish sometimes. The action scenes aren't particularly good. I mean, the Death Star action scenes, for example, obviously the trench run and stuff is really cool, but like the music is so exhilarating that it
Yeah.
really carries it. And like none of the original trilogy, besides for like the Battle of Hoth, has very compelling ground action. It's all frankly pretty terrible. Um, Maybe that's going a bit too far, but a lot of it is like what we see in Kenobi, where it's like the stormtroopers aren't even really behind cover; they're just kind of ducking and weaving and missing their shots.
Yeah.
But the music really carries it, and I just there's going to be fan edits, or there probably already are, I'm sure, that show kind of how some of these scenes work better with traditional Star Wars music.
Yeah, but one of the biggest things I saw was like, oh, there was such a great opportunity to use Imperial March earlier on in the season. That just shows how bad the show is that they didn't use it. But I think if they had used it, it would have undercut what was being done with it later on in the last scene with Vader. So I think there's elements of it that, like, yeah, could have been better.
Mm-hmm.
But I think using the original scores in that kind of way wouldn't have been particularly good. Like, I'm glad we got Imperial March when we
Yeah,
did, rather than getting that earlier. And at a certain point, you're going to be comparing people to John Williams, which is just, it's not going to come out favorably for most.
that's true. And you're right. You can't just like take tracks wholesale and insert them in. But I feel like certain Star Wars movies, like Rogue One, for example, did a good job of
Sure.
taking, the motifs and kind of building new tracks around them. Um,
And then there's Mandalorian, which went kind of the other direction and made a new sound for itself that does
and
sound very
totally
Star Wars.
worked.
And it's something that it matches more with a lot of what's being done in other new Star Wars songs a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else about episode 5. I mean, I obviously liked the Reva Darth Vader duel was cool.
Yeah.
And there's the one moment that everyone's been talking about. Everyone was talking about last week, where the the Grand Inquisitor just kind of pops up with the hello from Reva on the ground level. That is just so goddamn funny. And I honestly feel like it's kind of representative of the show as a whole, where it does. I honestly think that this show is going to get somewhat of a prequel treatment, and already is, in
Yeah.
that the execution has some major issues, and the prequel trilogy has some major issues. There are scenes. I've got a video coming out kind of about, if you watch Revenge of the Sith and you pause it for like any major action scene, someone's gonna look like a PS2 character.
Yeah.
Like, watch the Palpatine fight versus the Jedi. You pause it, and like, it's PS2 Ian McDermott fighting. Um, and that was like something that a lot of people were using to detract from the movie in the day. But it's not really something people remember. And I do think maybe this movie or this series will get kind of the same treatment, because I believe, I'm curious to hear your thought, that overall the themes are great and the
Yeah.
story is great. It's just the execution is lacking a bit.
Yeah, it's something that we kind of see all the time with Star Wars, where like big picture a lot of what's going on is good, and then some of the moment to moment stuff is what's lacking, or the way it compares to people's expectations is what's lacking. So a lot of it, when you kind of go in knowing what you're going in for, you're able to kind of focus on the bigger deals, then a lot of Star Wars ends up aging better than its initial reception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
like one of the biggest topics for everything was like, oh, everything's been like canon's ruined because they killed the Grand Inquisitor, those idiots. Like, okay, well, most people were guessing that he was not dead, because that wouldn't have made any sense. And then he turned out not to be dead. And I just wonder how much more air the world would still have if the people had just gone with what was clearly going to happen, and that he wasn't going to be dead.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people claiming that the show broke canon in one of like many ways. Um, I can't really, like, the one that people are saying is when, like, because Leia's a bit informal when she calls Obi-Wan on the
Yeah.
hologram in episode, but like, that's obviously because she knows it can be captured, and she's
Yeah.
obviously being a diplomat. And then later in the
Obi-Wan
cell
even
block,
fucking says, "Hey, let's maybe not act like
yeah,
we've met each other before." And like a line that was pretty unnecessary, unless you were trying to address
mhm,
it to people who are going to say, "Oh, why does Obi-Wan later, or why
yeah.
does she later not sound very personable
Yeah.
to him?"
And then later in the cell block, when she's being rescued and she's kind of dropped the whole kind of ambassador or senator thing, she's like, Obi-Wan's here?
Yeah,
Like, yeah. I thought that relationship was great. I was not surprised that Leia got sidetracked, or it's not sidetracked, put off to the side in the last couple of episodes, but I really liked her character.
yeah,
I thought they did a good job. They could have, they were almost on the cusp, I think, of being a little too on the nose with, this is, little Carrie Fisher, and like she's
yeah,
exactly like she is now, but smaller. I don't think they crossed the line. They could have, though, if they weren't careful. So
yeah. There
I'm
were mostly a few lines in her first episode where it was
mhm.
like, okay, she doesn't sound like she's 10 or 8 or whatever she was supposed to be. But
Yeah,
I think it did get kind of better as it went on.
yeah, yeah. I liked it. And I mean, she's just so cute. Like, she's
Yeah.
just a cute kid. And it's crazy how good child actors are. Like between obviously they're not kids anymore, but like just I rewatching the first season of Stranger Things, and like between that and like what we're seeing with kids in shows like this, it's pretty insane. Like
Yeah.
what directors are able to get out of them. Um, but yeah, I thought she was good. Is there anything else you want to talk about for episode 5 though?
Uh, maybe a bit with the uh we can talk, I guess, from both of the episodes there's a bit of the Jedi Wall stuff.
Oh
So
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
names that were up there, a lot of Legends characters that have been
Mm,
referenced here.
mhm.
And I think the some of the Riva stuff is worth talking about, like across both episodes.
Okay.
So if we want to maybe talk about her first, I know you've come out as a number one Riva stan and taken a lot of heat for doing so. So if I don't know if you want to take the
Yeah,
floor
no,
here
I
first.
really like Riva, and I at the first episode I was pretty vocal about how like she's hamming it up a little too much, and I'm not really too sure about it, and I didn't love the character, but like I think that the finale as a whole makes the entire series better, um, especially with the characters of Obi-Wan and Riva. But yeah, so Riva is obviously, and I've said this a million times, is obviously a character who's overcompensating for the fact
Yeah,
that she's just along on the ride.
yeah. And
She's
this
not
that was one of
truly.
the things that, like, when people were originally watching like the first episodes, where it's like, oh, this is bad because she's so over the top,
Mhm.
whereas like the other way it makes sense is that she's doing that because she is overcompensating, and that's how
Yeah,
we were able to kind of say from the start she is overcompensating. Maybe that's for a story reason and not just because she sucks.
yeah. No, I thought her acting was actually was really great,
Yeah,
especially in the last episode. I thought she knocked it out of the park. But what was I gonna say? And like I just feel like some people are not looking at her as a character. Like I think some people are trying to keep her too much into a box of what Star Wars characters are supposed to be like. Like the number one thing that people are saying is that, oh, her motivations don't make sense, or like you know in this episode, why is she even doing that? And like that's the whole point. She's become so consumed with anger. Like it's the exact same thing with Anakin. Like Anakin killing the children and doing everything he does to save Padme based on a dream, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
yeah,
Like that's the whole point. Like that's what Yoda says in episode 5. If you or episode 6 actually, when he's dying, he says the dark side will dominate your destiny forever, basically. And like that's what is happening with her. She has her whole life ripped apart in front of her. All her friends killed. The Jedi are destroyed. She's on the street dying, and she vows to take revenge, which is what Jedi are not supposed to do.
yeah,
And in doing that, she ends up nearly becoming, at the very end of episode 6, basically the thing that set her on her dark path.
yeah,
And I love that scene where she's about to kill Luke, and that's when like she's like, "What the fuck am I doing?"
yeah,
Like and then she's like, and then I thought the scene where she's crying to Obi-Wan and she's like, did I become him? I thought that was like phenomenal. I thought that was really, really great. And I don't think we usually get that much depth when it comes to like it's she wasn't twisted or manipulated by like she wasn't tortured into becoming evil, like I believe is what happens to Trilla in Fallen Order. It's like she just let the anger and the hate consume her, and like she almost lost herself to it.
yeah. It's really easy and common for Star Wars to kind of get into this binary of you're either light side and on the good side, or you're dark side and on the bad side.
Mm,
And Reeve is a situation where she was working with the Empire, but she was doing it having essentially infiltrated the Inquisitors. But it wasn't that she was like a light sider pretending to be on the dark side. She might have
yeah,
thought that of herself, but she
yep,
did. She was on the dark side. She had let that need for revenge eat away at her. And I think that factors a bit into why Obi-Wan is willing to use her the way he did. Like,
Yeah.
he set her up to get her ass handed to her by Vader. Like,
Yeah.
he would have known that his excuse of like, oh, he's going to be so focused on me that he won't see you coming, which maybe he has some hope that that's going to work out, but ultimately that's coming down to Riva making her own choice to pursue her need for revenge that way.
Yeah.
And
And like I'm seeing some small like I'm seeing some complaints. And the thing is, like, I feel like there's not many characters who are getting as like, okay, so one complaint, why did Vader let her live? Like, Vader thinks so little of her at that point. It's like he walks away. The Grand Inquisitor even says, like, you're basically a street rat, like, we found you. And I just assume Vader didn't kill her because he knows that, like, she might have some usefulness. And when it comes to why was she hunting Luke down, well, I assume either to get revenge on Obi-Wan, that's probably part of it,
yeah,
because she sees him as being partially responsible for what happened, and also because I think she thinks that finding Luke would probably get her back into Vader's good graces.
yeah, like Vader definitely wouldn't see her as a threat. Like, we see that in
No.
his fight with her,
Mhm.
and it makes more of a statement if you just
Yeah, he
let her
doesn't
go.
need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a street rat, and she might still have some usefulness to her. But and the one thing that I really don't get, that's just so stupid, that I personally think is so stupid, is, well, why didn't Obi-Wan kill her? Like,
No.
what do you mean?
Well,
Why would not Obi-Wan kill her? Why would Obi-Wan kill her?
yeah.
Like, is a Jedi gonna strike down a woman who's like broken? Like, yes, Obi-Wan kills Darth Maul when he mentions Luke, because Darth Maul is openly threatening Luke. Like,
Yeah.
Obi-Wan can't just kill a random woman. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. There is a question in my chat of how did she know about Luke? She saw Bale's message to Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
Like, when Bale needs some better OPSEC.
yeah. That
Like
part was
that.
Bale, when Bale got notched down from real homie to like
Yeah. If I don't hear back
mid-tier
from you,
friend.
I'm gonna check on the boy on Tatooine. Like, come
Mhm.
on, man. If you don't hear back from him, there's a
I'm gonna
good reason not to
Yeah,
broadcast
I'm gonna
this.
check to the the boy on Tatooine who lives with a farmer. Um, yeah, it was it was yeah,
Yeah, like
that part was a little silly. The other complaint that is just really driving me crazy about this show, and listen, if you don't like this show, totally fine, 100% okay. But the complaint that, like, they ruined Obi-Wan's character and made him a wimp, like, you're literally missing the entire part of the show. The show is about how do people deal with grief on the, like, or trauma. You've got
yeah.
Vader, who is completely unable to recover from it. That's what Kenobi learns, and he gives up. You have Obi-Wan, who is stricken by it for a long time, just like Yoda is, by the way. Yoda fucks off and lives in a swamp for, even doing nothing even longer than Obi-Wan. And then at the end, you've got the really beautiful moment where Obi-Wan's like, I'm not going to live into a cave right now. I'm not going to be scared of,
Yeah.
the worst thing happening. Like, I'm going to move on with my life, essentially. And he's the hero at the end of the series that we know. And then we've got Riva, who's somewhere kind of in the middle, where she did let it consume her. She didn't quite go off that cliff, but she's also not, recovered yet.
Yeah. Like, Obi-Wan has so many things happen to him over the course of episodes 1 through 3, but he's either placed as a secondary character to what's going on with Anakin, which is obviously the more important part, or even Padme.
Mhm.
And to another element of him is that he's meant to be kind of uh the more caring side of the Jedi Order, maybe, but he is positioned as kind of the representative of the Jedi Order in Anakin's life. So we don't get much to explore how he's reacting to things. So having something where we can focus on him as a human rather than just as a Jedi, and
Mhm.
how he processes what he went through with Anakin, what he went through with Qui-Gon. Like, he lost his father figure, was immediately put into this role as a parent,
Mhm.
and essentially, like, as far as the Jedi work,
Mhm.
and we never really get to explore his reaction to that, his reaction to how he might feel he failed Anakin, how he might feel Anakin failed him. We get
Mhm.
the bit of speech at the end of the fight in Mustafar that kind of hints at that or goes into it a bit. But
Mm.
here we get 4 episodes, the first 4 episodes that are really about how traumatic that is for him. And it would be. And then the
Yeah.
last episodes are how he's able to not dismiss that, but kind of take that as part of his experience, grow from it, and use that to be able to confront Vader and move on from
Mhm.
there.
Beats his ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're totally right. I think part of the problem, and it's kind of funny because we talked about this when we were reading the Revenge of the
Brotherhood.
Sith novel. Sorry.
Brotherhood as well a bit.
Oh yeah, but at the end of Revenge of the Sith, I said, "Man, I really wish that the movie ended with that hopeful scene where Qui Gon does show up, because
Yeah.
that's kind of the glimmer of hope at the end of all these terrible things happening." And like, what this show essentially did is like get to that point where like the bad part is over, and like now people are starting to recover. And I think part of the problem is that people assume because episode 3 ends with the binary sunset and stuff, that it's all, uphill from there, or that it's all kind of, upside from there, it's all happy. Obi-Wan's fine because the children are back. But like, it's not quite that simple. Like, you
Yeah.
know his best friend just murdered a bunch of kids, and it turned into an evil robot, and all this shit. So like, but they got there at the end. Like, it was, what the I swear, something just got killed out in my neighborhood. But like, this was the happy moment. Like, Obi-Wan gets to see Luke, and that's a scene that I thought about too, because like, Luke and Leia, like those are the closest things that he has essentially to like his friend. Like,
Yeah.
that's, so yeah, I don't know. I think people are just, expectations are weird.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of things in the show, like sneaking Leia out under the cloak
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
are definitely memeable,
Oh
aren't
yeah.
that great, or the stuff with the lighting that's just
Hmm.
pretty bad if you want to actually watch the show. But on a
Yep.
lot of those bigger themes, on exploring the characters, I think the show did a really good job. And I
Yep.
think that's what's ultimately going to stick around for people in the long term.
Yeah.
And like even just watching some of the scenes from A New Hope of the Death Star escape and like Obi-Wan looking back at Luke and Leia, like obviously
Hmm.
that wasn't what was intended with it at the time, but there is extra context there that still I think in retrospect does work well. Like now that
Hmm.
look from Obi-Wan isn't just meant for Luke, it's meant for Luke and Leia, and like Leia's concern there, rather than being for this guy she'd only heard about secondhand, is now for someone that going back
Hmm.
20 years, sure, or 10 years, but she did have at least some connection to him.
Yeah. No, I agree. Um,
And Qui-Gon's face when he turns around is definitely the biggest meme, which is why he's on my stream
yeah.
layout right now.
Yeah, and the Qui-Gon part was like, it really was kind of like the emotional release, I guess, at the end, where it's like things are gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like this season or the series is like recognizing, yeah, things are gonna be okay eventually. Like Owen and Beru, they're gonna take care of Luke, and
Yeah.
you know Vader, one thing that's interesting is Obi-Wan doesn't think at this point that Anakin is still around. Obviously, he's still physical alive, but
Yeah.
like he doesn't believe Anakin's still, and like, but he's kind of coming to terms with that, and but he's also seen that Anakin's got 2 kids who are pretty cool. So like at the end, Qui-Gon's there. He's like, yeah, you went through it, but it's gonna be all right.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that Obi-Wan has fully bought into the idea that like Anakin's not in there at all.
Hmm.
I think part of actually dealing with that experience is accepting that Anakin had that in him the whole time too. Like
Hmm.
there isn't a divide between Darth Vader and Anakin. And it's one of the most annoying things in Star Wars for me, how characters get handled that way. Not just the whole Darth Vader versus Anakin, but like what I was mentioning before, the dark side versus light side, you flip a switch and you're not the same person anymore. Or
Hmm.
like even Vader's redemption at the end of episode 6. Like sure he might be renouncing Palpatine at that point, but that doesn't like retroactively make him a good person. So he shouldn't get to stand there all happy with Obi-Wan and Yoda right afterwards. I think they'd have some things to work through.
Mhm.
But
Well, that's where you kind of get into the whole fairy tale
yeah.
versus, yeah.
I mean, you can take it as like a symbol that they would go out there and make things right if they
Mhm.
could, but it's
Yeah,
still
yeah. No, I totally agree. Um, but but yeah, you know, obviously it is a bit more complicated than that, but I don't think Obi-Wan has a whole lot of hope in Anakin being redeemed at this point. And like,
no,
I think they went out of their way to make Anakin look pretty. Like, I love that. I think everyone kind of loves that scene where he gets, you know, his mask chopped open. And
yeah,
for me, that was really helpful because I've always kind of had trouble. Like, obviously, you know, logically that Anakin, as played by Hayden Christensen and Darth Vader, are the same character. But for me, this really helped me make the
yeah,
connection. But like, Anakin looks fucking like depraved under there. He almost looks like he's smiling at some points. I think that's honestly just because of the way the mask goes into his mouth.
yeah.
Same, you kind of see the same thing, but like he looks like a fucking madman in there.
Yeah. I mean, there's moments where it almost seems like Anakin as Obi-Wan knew him is coming through. And I'm not talking about like Obi-Wan thinking Anakin has a chance to be redeemed. I
Hmm.
just mean the idea that Darth Vader and Anakin are the same person and trying to
Hmm.
reconcile the Anakin that he knew, like those character traits with what's like standing in front of him there, even if now it's a lot
Hmm.
more twisted and covered in
Hmm.
plastic and fake arms and stuff. It's still in some ways is Anakin.
Hmm.
And I didn't love the lightsabers in this,
Yeah,
but
kind of weird looking.
the glow from them in that scene I thought worked really well.
Hmm.
Like the way it was like the blue highlight and then the red
Yeah.
one. That's when he's just really gone. But
Yeah, it's fine when the lightsabers actually look fine in the dark because it's kind of like that scene in episode 2 during the Dooku Anakin fight when the
yeah,
lights go out and the lightsabers look like that. It's just like in other situations they're way too bright.
yeah. There's
And
literally no other light source.
yeah, and they didn't use practical lightsabers in the prequel trilogy, and they have. I honestly think the Force Awakens pretty much got them completely right,
Mhm.
and I think other things have too. So probably just like whatever was different in this show, just don't do that again.
Yeah. Like I think a good base of comparison here is Kenobi versus Book of Boba Fett,
Hmm.
where I think Mandalorian is generally pretty well praised on story and execution in almost all aspects. Maybe a few episodes are too slow, but in Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi, there's a lot more criticism on the execution side. But I think where Kenobi makes it up is in how it handles those characters and the broader themes. Whereas Book of Boba Fett, there are cool moments,
Hmm.
but you can't. There's no overarching real character depth to
Hmm.
Boba, even in that show. That uh, that kind of allow you to look past some of the weirder stuff.
Hmm.
And you can almost see Kenobi going through a similar trajectory in the first 3 or 4 episodes, but a lot of that ends up setting up what happens in episodes 5 and 6 really well. Whereas Book of Boba Fett starts off with things that could be very good setup, but then the later episodes tend to be about Din and Grogu. So
Yeah.
it just yeah,
That's actually a really good comparison because I actually think the Book of Boba Fett was phenomenal, like production wise. Um, I mean, like kind of like you said, I think like they got a lot of the. It seems like they got a lot of the Return of the Jedi props back, and like things like the ring and the scene where they're making like just the scene where they're making the N1 starfighter. I think is
yeah.
probably more impressive than any single thing the show did, and I don't think it's close.
It
Um,
definitely on the whole has like really high production value, but then you get individual scenes that I think stick in a lot of people's memories of like the speeder chase looking really kind of not great.
Yeah, I get a bit of a problem with that personally because I think the speeder chase, the main issue was like the speed, where like
Yeah,
if you watch the environment and like like from like it's still in my opinion a bit of a marvel because like the amount of things you went in the background, everything else, and like how well. But yeah, I'm getting
Fair enough.
off topic here, but 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 yeah, it's weird because you're right, and it's kind of funny because the Book of Boba Fett is something up until the finale I really enjoyed for like a complete different reason for why I enjoyed Kenobi, which I think is kind of what you're alluding to. Like I love the Book of Boba Fett because it felt like Return of the Jedi, the TV show. It had lots of cool props, it had lots of cool Star Wars things. It was just like a spectacle. Where this, it was like it's not pleasant to look at sometimes.
You're
And
also
that
like #1 Tatooine stan though too.
yes, absolutely, 100%. Um, but with this, it was like and not pleasant to look at sometimes. And sometimes I'm like, that's kind of stupid. Um, but I like the overall story.
Mhm. So how would you generally rank if you were to take the 3 live action shows we've had so far? Then we kind of did this when we were talking about the first season of Bad Batch with the animated shows, but how would you position the live action ones now?
That's really tough. Oh man, Mando is definitely first. I love Mando. Um, I think if I were to even split Mando up in two, I think Mando season one would be the top.
Yeah.
It would probably be Mando one, Mando two. I think Cassian's probably going to come in at three when it comes out, just based on how amazing the trailer was. I'm setting my expectations for that show very very high. Um, man, I don't know. That's really difficult because it's like I guess I'd probably set this one as kind of the next one, and then maybe Book of Boba Fett. It's hard to say because this one is just so redeemed by its finale, where it makes the entire show much better. Where the Book of Boba Fett's the exact opposite. So yeah, I guess I go Mando, this Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah. If I'm splitting up Mando, then I'm probably doing like Mando 1, Obi-Wan, Mando 2, and
Mm-hmm.
then Book of Boba Fett. But like Kenobi in season 2 of Mando, I'd probably have pretty close to each other. I need
Oh
to
really?
rewatch it. I
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably being unfair to some of the shows there. I like my biggest thing with Book of Boba Fett is that like looking back, it's hard to say where Boba was at the start versus the end, and maybe that's partially because I'm looking at it through such a Kenobi centric lens now of like character exploration. When sure he had his Tuscan adventures and he had
Mm-hmm.
his moments of being like super high on stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but it is to me at least kind of hard to see what his character growth was there. But you can also see that with Din, where we have a good idea of where
Yeah.
he was going as a character, and like even Grogu in Book of Boba Fett, like we had
Mm-hmm.
his choice being made, even if it was largely made off screen. So yeah, I think for now, Kenobi's in the middle. Book of Boba Fett is
All right.
at the bottom.
So
Not that I
here's a
dislike Book of Boba Fett, just
yeah.
it doesn't stick with me the same way.
Here's a question. Rebels or Clone Wars? I don't know if I've ever asked you that.
Rebels, absolutely
Okay.
Rebels.
Yeah. Okay. Me too.
Season 7 of the Clone Wars might be a bit higher than some of the Rebel stuff, but
Mm,
a lot of the and there are individual arcs of the Clone Wars that I really like,
mm,
but a lot of the early stuff especially is like uh the 17th Battle of Naboo because Jar Jar
yeah.
and 3PO are off on an adventure.
Yeah. I agree. Um. Yeah. So
You're
anything else you want to say about the?
watching sorry?
Yeah, I'm trying to do a Rebels rewatch. I've just been so busy. I've only gotten through 2.5 episodes. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Are
But
we ever going to try to do a Rebels thing for the podcast? We've talked
yeah,
about it a lot.
I
I
think
feel
we
like
should.
we
Yeah.
got to.
Yeah. I think we should for sure.
Right, so we'll
Maybe we
figure
do
that out
like
after Tales of the Jedi, maybe.
maybe like a half season per episode or something.
Yeah, because we're gonna have some time without a show, but not much in the future. Like we're gonna have
Andor
shows
is basically
forever.
2 months away.
Yeah, so I don't know if we want to figure that out as the off episodes between Tales of the Jedi or
Hmm.
after we do Tales of the Jedi. But we'll figure that out.
There's nothing coming in before Andor, right? That's the next one.
Yeah, it's Andor, then Bad Batch in the middle of Andor, I think.
Right. And then is there Visions coming out this year, or is that next
I think
year?
that's next year. That probably around the same time next year, so probably after.
Oh yeah, but Andor's long, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's 16 episodes.
isn't it 2 seasons of 12 episodes or something?
Is that what it is?
I'm not sure.
I don't think we know specific. There have been a lot of speculation about how many seasons there will be, but I don't think they've specifically said how many seasons there will be. At least 2. We know there will be at least 2, but I don't think we know there's going to be only 2.
Yeah, I think there was also stuff about it originally being like 3 seasons with fewer episodes, and then it just got divided differently. So who knows what's going on there? Like I think Andor and Bad Batch are both 2 of the longer shows, so having them air simultaneously is going to be interesting.
Yeah. Andor is 12 episodes starting August 31st. And then season 2 of the Bad Batch, which I'm really excited. I loved having just a random episode of the Bad Batch to look forward to every week. That starts on the 28th of September.
Yeah. So actually, before we get off Kenobi, we have a couple questions we'll try to get through. But season 2, what do you think? Yay or nay?
Like, I love how they ended the story. So, like, if they do a season 2 with the characters, they can't meet. They can't meet anymore. And I don't think Obi-Wan can leave Tatooine. If they want to do a season 2 of Obi-Wan kind of training with Qui-Gon and maybe facing off against some local threat, I think that would be kind of cool.
Sure.
And have Darth Vader kind of maybe hunting down the Jedi that we like, a little core and horn, like as a separate plot. That could be interesting, but like the actors, we're in a very unique position, like where these actors still want to do their role. They've aged into it perfectly. It does feel like a bit of a waste not to use them. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd love to be able to see them play the characters again, the same way that I'd like. It's very similar to the Mace Windu situation, where I'd love to have I'd love for Samuel L. Jackson to have the opportunity to play Mace Windu, because he's clearly wanted to do that for 10 years now.
Mace Windu's a really fun character.
Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that I'd necessarily want him to show up in like Mando season 3 as a new person for Luke's Academy. Like I don't know that a season 2 of Kenobi needs to exist just as a justification to have them back. And that was already my fear with the first season. I think the more you stretch that out, the harder it is. But what they can do is wait another 10 years, use those actors for the children, and just remake the original trilogy with Ewan and Hayden. And there we go. Problem solved. Hopefully,
so
Ian McDermott's still around.
Hayden's got one different scene. Yeah. McDermott's now age appropriate for his character for the first time.
What a full circle journey for him that would be.
Yeah. Well, I saw a lot of people complaining about the Emperor, but I kind of liked it. I mean, he's 10 years younger, or actually, the first time you really get a good look at him is Return of the Jedi. You see him a bit in Empire Strikes Back, but so he's like 12 to 13 to 15 years younger. So I thought he was fine, to be honest.
Do you mean here, or do you mean in?
Yeah, here. Sorry, here.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that was a thing that it was.
What do you mean? Of course it was.
Oh well, yeah. Sorry. Reva gets her ass handed to her twice by Vader. You're too powerful. Too powerful.
If they did do another show, I'd be happy to see more Reva as well, obviously. So what would you think kind of a season 2 with, like, again, managed kind of keeping Kenobi and Vader separate? And I don't know, maybe we do the Darth Crate thing. What do you think of that?
I don't, sitting from this side of it, I don't want it. I don't think I want it. But I don't know. Maybe if there was a good story to tell with it here, like I don't think we need another story about like Obi-Wan dealing with his grief. I think that was handled really well here.
He's handled it. Move on.
one thing I do want to say about Riva is I do like that we're actually getting a good variety of characters who we know are still around in some form,
Mhm.
like Jedi or Jedi adjacent characters that have survived Order 66 and have a really different trajectory while doing it,
Yeah.
and how they're going to go into either the period where Luke is trying to rebuild the Order or even beyond if some of them are alive then. Because like Cal and Riva are not particularly old. Neither
Mhm.
is Ahsoka, but you have like Riva, Ahsoka, Cal, Luke, who all have these very different experiences or views of the Jedi Order from Luke, who was
Yeah,
not
Reva's
part of
even
it.
younger than Cal. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, Luke has this almost veneration of the Jedi Order as he's trying to rebuild it, and then he loses that after everything goes down with Ben. So we
Mhm.
know what his story ends up being. We don't know really where Ahsoka goes, though we are going to get a show with her, and
Mhm.
maybe she's dead because she shows up in the Tross stuff, talking to Rey. But that still leaves a
Yeah.
lot for
They can
Riva and
hand wave that away
Cal.
really quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, she could have just been like relaxing on a beach somewhere or on the
Yeah,
Ghost, and
exactly.
she's just communicating down to like
Yeah.
I'd be happy with any of
Um
that.
So one thing that's kind of interesting is, as we talked about in an earlier episode, Jason Ward from Making Star Wars, he leaked the entire plot of Kenobi, um, like a while ago, and he got
Mhm.
it right up until the very last episode, where originally
He said
I
that she killed Luke.
no, originally I believe she said that I think it was originally Vader kills Reva kind of afterwards. Um, And then he put a thing out saying that the ending had been changed, kind of to keep the possibility for a season 2 opening. Now, whether that's true or whether it was a miscommunication, I don't know, but kind of interesting. Um, but yeah, I don't really want to kind of a straight season 2 either.
Yeah,
But like it's just be such a shame to waste the talent
yeah,
when they're so age appropriate
yeah.
and embraced by the fandom again.
Like I fully expect it's not a possibility they're dismissing out of hand. Like,
Oh no, yeah, yeah, for sure.
yeah. So I will open up
Oh wait, we didn't
question.
talk about the Jedi Wall. Can you give us a
Right.
brief on that? I think you kind of know more than I do.
Right. So we had in the first episodes we had Quinlan Voss, obviously that Obi-Wan mentioned there. We also had uh I might be mixing this up with no. Okay, I shouldn't mention that stuff. No. So we saw in the tanks we saw Coleman Kaj is dead.
Mm-hmm.
One of the only
Or at
council
least
member.
in
Yeah.
yeah.
The only council member that is unaccounted for, assuming that is Coleman, is Oppo Rancisis. So look forward to Oppo Rancisis appearing in episode in season 3 of The Mandalorian. Uh, but on the wall, and this is between the actual wall and production notes for it. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if all of it actually made it into the uh, the actual episode, but you have almost everyone from Children of the Jedi. So you have like the Ismarans, you have uh, what was the guy's name that ran their sect? Because I think he was on there as
Oh
well.
yeah, I can't remember.
Ram Koda was in at least the production notes, I think.
Oh really? Because I didn't know
And
all these.
yeah, so Ram Koda was on there,
Oh,
uh, as was Eno Cordova, which I think is Seer and Eno from Jedi Fallen Order were
I
on
think
there.
Seer made the show. Oh no, maybe she didn't. Oh, so
So
I didn't see these production notes. Interesting.
yeah, so there is a chance that Eno is still alive. I think most of them are probably just let's ask Pablo Hidalgo or someone similar. What are some Jedi names we can throw up for these Easter eggs?
Mm-hmm.
But I think if anyone is Jin Altus, thank you, uh, is likely to be a potential setup for future stuff, then Eno Cordova we might
Mm-hmm.
actually see show up in the flesh in Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor rather.
Yeah, that wouldn't be like it'd be a twist, but it wouldn't like I could definitely see them establishing that because they are very like I was under the impression, not having I guess paid enough attention, that he was dead in the game, but they don't actually say.
No.
I actually assumed he died before Order 66, but they don't say it all, so he very could well be alive.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, like part of his story is the whole no one listens to him about the fact that the Jedi are under grave threat. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, I don't know if that needed to be a story that we put in, because like that
Yeah,
just makes the Jedi sound even dumber than they already
yeah,
ended up acting. But yeah.
yeah. All right.
So those are the highlight names, I think. All
Oh,
the
and
children's are
Nija Halcyon,
yes, Nija
or
Halcyon,
yeah,
which is Corrin's grandfather, which would be the kid who was in many episodes here, who has now officially met Leia. But whether that again, whether that's meant to tie the characters together or is now just like two separate
Oh,
things, who
I did
knows?
also see something, an interview, and I haven't seen anyone talk about this. So, oh, actually, it wasn't Nietzsche Halcyon. It was Valen Halcyon, wasn't it? Wasn't it his
Wasn't
father?
it?
Not
Was
his.
it Hal Horn? Valen
Yeah,
Horn?
I think it was. I think it was Valen who was on the wall. Pretty sure. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So I haven't seen anyone talk about this, but I was checking um for things online, kind of about the what's her name again? Corn's mother, Niche. I
Niche.
was looking to see if it had been, if anyone had talked about it on Twitter. So I was just googling like or I was just on Twitter search putting Niche in the actress's name, and I did find one thing. She gave an interview with a newspaper or a magazine in Spanish, and I did Google Translate, and the character was called Niche. Now it's possible that they just got that from the IMDb listing, but it's also possible that she just told them in the interview that
Yeah.
her character was named Niche.
Did you see
So
when that was from?
no, I'll see if I can find it though, and maybe include it in the show notes if I can later. But
All right.
it was from I think after episode 5.
Okay, so it would have been okay.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have been the source of people putting it on it.
No, 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 no.
All right, so we got a couple questions for this week. First off, from Matrix with an Obi-Wan related one, asking, I was wondering in the final scene in Kenobi with Qui-Gon telling Obi-Wan that there was a place they would head to, do you think that could perhaps lead into a plot arc of the second season? I think he was just talking about them heading into the real estate market to buy Obi-Wan's house, because they
Yeah,
weren't going
I
to
think
live in
so.
a cave like 5 feet from Owen and Beru anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it
Yeah.
was like any real journey they were going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. It kind of reminded me at the end of, I was going to say Indiana Jones reference, but I don't think you've seen those movies. But yeah, it was like, let's just talk and let's get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, Matrix. Next from Jacob, who says, what do you think happened to Obi-Wan's shuttle from the finale? Riva doesn't take it because Obi-Wan takes it to Alderaan, and then he flies it back to Tatooine. Does he sell it, bury it in the desert, give it to the Jawas? What's up with that? I think he sells it.
Yeah, maybe he lets his little Jawa buddy from the beginning have it.
Yeah, like he absolutely sells it though. Like he is a homeowner in episode 4. He used to work at a fish market.
Yeah,
Bale
Tatooine.
didn't hand him a bunch of money.
He gave his last money to that down on his luck clone trooper.
Yeah, like he had to sell the ship. That's how he bought a house. He
Hmm.
should have just lived in the ship. It,
Yeah,
it looked spacious. I'd live in that ship.
yeah. I think one of the worst scenes, by the way, in this series was the ship behind the ship thing from episode 5.
Yeah,
That was so bad.
that was very Chewie's on the other shuttle.
And like, at least that was executed like visually all right. This was just like, it looks like they like Control C, Control V'd it. Yeah, not great.
Yeah. You'd think Vader could sense people. Star Wars is always very unclear on who can sense what when.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it never rely on Jedi to be able to sense anything.
No.
Next from Byron, who asks, what do you think of Kenobi saying that passion was a positive quality that Leia inherited from her father? Also, this might be weird, but I was hoping the ship that landed on Alderaan at the end had Vader in it instead of Kenobi. Really like the scene in Dark Lord where Vader visits the Organas on
Well,
Alderaan.
yeah, I forgot about that scene. That
That
is a
would be
fun one.
awkward.
Yeah. What was the first?
Passion as a positive quality.
Yeah. I mean, I think passion was a positive quality of Anakin's in a way. He just, he didn't have the maturity to kind of rein it in a bit. But I think he was definitely. I think him being passionate was a good thing for sure.
Yeah, like there's the whole the Jedi and Sith codes and like passion is dark side, but it's more like Anakin had many flaws in how he went about things, but he did
Mm-hmm.
strongly care about things.
Yeah, exactly.
And Obi-Wan sees that in not Yoda, in Leia, and sees that has let her help him and others throughout the show. So it's something that he recognizes from Anakin that was
Like,
like a positive spin on it.
yeah, you want Anakin as your friend. Like,
Yeah.
no joke. Like, if your car is broken down on the side of the road and you need to call your friend, he's gonna come pick you up, and he's gonna probably punch the guy who hit your car or whatever too. Also, we don't
Yeah.
usually read donations. I want to say thank you to Clay for the $50. Appreciate that.
You play. Joel is asking, what do you think the legacy of the series is going to be? We kind of discussed how reception might change over time there,
Mhm.
along with the other Disney Plus series. So yeah, I think we mostly covered that. But we'll leave it to future us to see how we reference it in the future, and you can just
Yeah.
passively study our responses there. So our last question for the week is going to come from Paul, who asks, or who says, a bit late to be saying this, but I like the fact that you guys are doing more than just Star Wars for Tapcaf. Wondering if you plan to talk about other subjects in the future, like you did with Halo. For example, if I remember correctly, you guys said you like Dragon Ball. Ever thought about talking about Dragon Ball with the upcoming movie or anything like that? I mean, we did have
Um.
a segment on Dragon Ball to start off the show, so
Yeah, I don't really like modern Dragon Ball very much. I love kind of. I actually like. I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan, less Dragon Ball Z and the other stuff. But I mean, I'd definitely be open to doing other stuff. Like, I don't know, Stranger Things.
yeah.
Maybe at some point talk about that, even if it's just kind of a segment at the beginning of one of our episodes. Did you watch the new season, by the way, Corey?
I am halfway through episode 7, and I think there's 2 episodes still to come. Or are they
Yeah,
both
there's
out
two
now?
episodes. There's 2 episodes coming in. I think it's July 1st, maybe.
Yeah, like
So yeah, very soon. It's been
I
good.
we definitely want to stay like 95% Star Wars.
Mhm.
So in like 100 episodes, you might get 5 that aren't Star Wars, because like there's obviously the core audience for the show is here for Star Wars. But when there's especially culturally relevant things coming out that are in a similar vein, like the Halo show, we're a bit more likely to branch out to that. So like Dune was another one that we did talk about covering, but I still haven't seen the movie. So
Mhm.
it's not impossible that there'd be other stuff we talk about. Sci-fi has the highest chance,
Yeah.
but
I mean, and we usually have like 20 to 30 minutes at the beginning of the episode too, where we're kind of just mouthing off about whatever. So, did you watch
yeah,
The Boys yet? By the way, did you watch the new
I've only
season?
seen 1 episode. I basically
Okay.
downloaded a bunch of like Stranger Things, League of Legends, pro games, The Boys to watch on the bus to my sister's place and back, or the
So you
train.
watched the guy crawl into the other guy's urethra?
That's I'd watched that episode already. That episode is why I decided maybe I don't want to watch this in public.
Maybe not on the train.
Yeah. So instead, I watched Stranger Things on the train for most of the time.
Okay. We got lots of good streaming stuff though between Kenobi and The
Yeah,
Boys, Stranger Things. It's been
yeah.
a good time to.
Umbrella Academy's back. I don't know if you've ever watched that, but
I've never watched that. Is that okay? This is a really stupid question. Is that related to Resident Evil?
no,
Okay.
that's not a stupid question. I understand why you would think that, but it is
Yeah.
not.
Okay.
It's based on a comic book series by the lead singer of My Chemical Romance. So
Huh. Is that Gerard Way?
yeah,
Okay. All right. Okay.
there you go. That's what I'm
Oh,
leaving
yeah,
you
there it
with.
is.
That's my bright spot for the week. For any
Yeah.
knowledge fight fans out there. But yeah, we are gonna play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's
Oh, I'm
Revenge
excited for this. Yes, I'm excited for this.
in 5 to 10 minutes. We're gonna have Charlie for that, our guest for this episode of Tapcaf. That I did not advertise because I assumed he would not show up, and here we are.
Yep.
To be fair, he never said he would definitely do it. He said he would, and then you said, "If you're not too busy, don't worry." Uh,
Yeah.
and so, thank you for joining us, Charlie. But yeah, so I'm going to be live on twitch.tv/Corey Loses in 5 minutes with that. Eck is going to be over on youtube.com/X2, ECKSTOO. We're going to be streaming together.
Mhm.
We're not like separating here and then each playing the same game.
Each playing
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles on our own.
I just don't like the multiplayer.
Just don't like Corey that much. He sucks. Yeah, so don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this and you're listening, make sure to leave 5-star reviews and tell us something you've enjoyed recently about the podcast or something that we can work on more. But yeah, thanks,
Tell
guys.
us which of us you want us to replace.
Yeah. Well, who's the weaker host?